Peloton is issuing two separate voluntary recalls for its products following a series of accidents, one of them involving the death of a child. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission says people should stop using Peloton's Tread Plus and Tread products. A 6-year-old child recently died after being pulled under the rear of the Tread Plus. Adults and pets have reportedly been injured in similar ways. The Tread had reports of the touchscreen loosening and falling off. Peloton has stopped the sale of both treadmills. Consumers who bought either product should contact Peloton for a full refund or free repairs. Lonely people are looking for furry friends during the pandemic, and scammers are, of course, taking advantage of that. The Connecticut Humane Society is putting the word out about the rise of online pet buying scams. Scammers typically ask for money up front to cover a down payment and transportation costs, and then cut off communication, with even the most discerning consumers falling for increasingly more sophisticated scams. Senator Richard Blumenthal wants the Federal Trade Commission to strictly monitor and address the issue.
Let's stop the dishonesty and deception involved in these pet scams that now are exploding in number because people want pets more than ever in this pandemic.
We also know that people are more comfortable purchasing online, and the acquisition of a pet is certainly one of those methods. So please report, but also just consider, do your research, buyer beware. Check with your local nonprofit, animal care and control agency, legitimate rescue group.
The Better Business Bureau says there were nearly 4,000 reports of pet scams in 2020, costing hopeful pet owners nearly $3 million. The scammers are also trying to get you at the pump. The Department of Consumer Protection issuing a warning about skimming devices following reports of one found in Plymouth. The DCP says the easiest way to avoid the scam is to pay in cash or inside the gas station. If you prefer to stay at the pump, check the seal of the gas pump to make sure it hasn't been tampered with. Use your credit card, not your debit card. It'll be easier to recover funds if you do get scammed. Also, check your statement regularly to identify potential fraud.